Welcome to Take the Helm podcast, where we will share stories, experiences, data, and best practices with industry leaders, friends, and dealers. From market conditions to insights, leadership development to tough conversations, take the helm. Welcome back to Take the Helm podcast. My name is Taylor, and I'll be your host. We're going to hit a tough topic head on today. Is your digital presence becoming obsolete? Before we dive in, I want to introduce our experts today. We have Aaron Barney, John Green, and Travis Winkleman. Together, this crew has over 50 years of industry experience and knowledge. To ensure that we maximize our time today, I've outlined their introductions in the descriptions below. So super excited, guys. Welcome to the podcast. So Aaron, let's start with you. Whether we like it or not, 2020 forced all dealers into a digital-first sales mindset. Many dealerships were closed completely, while some were limited on how they could conduct business. Dealers had to get creative considering that they still had inventory on the floor and bills that had to be paid. So how has this redefined today's digital retailing necessity?
Well, I think the first place to start, Taylor, is the events that kind of kicked off in 2020. And we know what that was, primarily the global pandemic. It indeed had, I guess the best way to say, a profound impact on our industry, and really all industries, and in all of our lives, around the world. And there's just no way to ignore that. But the topic that we're really talking about around digital, it's really accelerated the adoption of digital, I believe. And over that, kind of when that really started, dealerships, were really compelled to, if they weren't already, to really invest in processes and tools and even technologies to really quickly kind of adapt to how they engage and communicate with customers. And that wasn't an overnight thing, right? I mean, that took time for dealers to, it was kind of like an oh wow moment that we all shared that together. We all lived through it. But some of the things I thought about when you were asking that question are things like, that didn't exist before were virtual showrooms, virtual test drives. And we weren't doing that stuff before. Contactless transactions. I mean, as many listeners might remember, that based on where you were at and what state you were in, you could or couldn't do certain things. So it was about a time of almost creativity. Everybody was forced to innovate. And it was for the purpose to really improve the personalized online experience, because before we had customers able to walk through our showroom, and then we couldn't at all. It was forced to all happen from an online experience. Some of the things also were, if you recall, were remote sales, remote deliveries, that we weren't able to do before. But there's a lot of, the silver lining in that was that there was, it forced us to make better data-driven insights, and forced us to have kind of, I think, more of a hybrid approach. And I think we still see that hybrid approach today. So, even as, things got better, maybe is the best way to say that, as dealerships started to reopen, that was a really great day to see, that happening. The digital, like I like to call it, the digital first approach, it still remained relevant. And it clearly is still relevant today. So I think many dealerships adopted that hybrid approach. They really combined in-person transactions with digital tools. And they're recognizing that customers, they offer often, even prior to the pandemic, they preferred a mix of both of those experiences, online and face to face. But I think, in summary, the challenges of 2020 Well, I do want to mention that we were already on a path to a digital first sales mindset. We just, not all of us adopted it yet. Some of us were already working towards that. But it really forced us in a new direction. So I think it's forced dealerships to adapt quickly to that digital first mindset. And it really helped us redefine the necessity for digital retailing. And we're not meaning full e-commerce here. We're meaning how we improve and influence the customer's experience in all things digital. And it's made it really an integral part of the way we do business today. Today we face new challenges. We have new challenges, new opportunities. But I think that I'll end with today's world, and we are in a new world. Most importantly, digital retailing, has accelerated and will continue to accelerate with a lot of speed.
Great points, Aaron. You're exactly right. The pandemic was kind of the ultimate neutralizer, right? It put everybody back at the exact same starting place where everybody had the opportunity to take advantage of the digital market or not. And I think we're starting to see some of those effects. And we talk a lot about how 90% of customers shop online before ever entering the showroom, right? And that talks about this digital first retailing. So, John, I want to turn the question over to you, and thinking about this 90%, how has a digital first retail mentality impacted the customer's buying journey and their expectations?
Well, it's a great follow on, obviously. And I think it's funny, Aaron, the COVID situation obviously did accelerate things. And the old saying of necessity is the mother of invention, right? So you had a bunch of retailers, and we talk about the power sports and different segments we work in specifically. And we had to figure out a new way to do business, right? It was just necessity. And some retailers got really, really creative at it, have done a great job, and it profoundly changed their business forever. Others have not been that quick to adapt to the new way or adopt new process to do that. So I think that's one piece. But some cool things came because we just had to do something different. So that's always exciting to see. So 90%, Taylor, it's interesting. During the COVID times, I think people became trained, consumers became trained on how to do business and engage with whatever kind of retailer, whatever kind of business digitally, because that was all they had. That's all they could do. It was the only option. So people were gravitating that way anyway. That was kind of the natural evolution of where we were going with retail. But it put us in a position where people had to do that, right? Retailers had to react to it. But as consumers, we had to figure out how to do that. And we had 3 years of that. Right? And that's enough time to create a habit. Okay, so now we have a whole segment of people, and they don't want to do it any other way anymore. Right? They want to do it all online, most of it online. So I think that's one piece. So 90% of these people now, we talk about that, at least in power sports, they start their journey on your dealer's website. Okay, that's where they begin the whole thing. We'll talk about the components of that. But Aaron was talking about this hybrid piece or blended retail, if you call it. The 90% who start online in power sports and marine and automotive and RV and so forth, they also, a huge percentage of them, another 90% of that 90, they want to come in and talk to people face to face, right? They want to test ride, they want to get in it, they want to get on it, they want to see it, they want to see the paint, they want to see the color, they want somebody to look at their trade-in, they want to do all those things. So great dealers today have to be really, really good in both spaces. Okay, we're not going to talk about the retail ready side, inside the physical store, the brick and mortar side of it. That's a different discussion. Okay, but you got to be great at that, because most people who start online, if you engage with them and you move them along the process, eventually they're going to come in your store anyway. You have to be ready for that. But just on the digital side of it, I think their expectations are multiple, right? They expect a very dynamic digital showroom, right? The virtual showroom that Aaron talked about, right? Is the website that you have on par with the experience that you deliver in your physical space, right? Does it feel the same way? Does it look the same? Does it have the same kind of energy, right? Do we change it up to look that way? Is it easy to find your way around navigationally? Are there easy places for me to raise my hand as a potential customer and say, hey, I want to talk to somebody, or I want some help? Okay, so that's a piece of it right there. Are there videos on there? We're doing great product showcases on there because that's what consumers want. So I think that expectation has gotten, I guess, a little more serious. They just expect more from a dealer's website right now, and they should. So that's one side. If they opt to become a lead on the site, right, now I've raised my hand. I've indicated to you I have interest in your business, your product, or somebody in your dealership, something like that. I've raised my hand. Consumers expect almost immediate response from a real person, right? I know we've got chat functions and we've got bots and we're going to have AI presence continue to become bigger and bigger and bigger, but people still want to interact with a real person. They want to do it right now, right? You said you're open, your website's open. I put my hand up and you got to talk to me right now. So I think the expediency of response is a huge expectation right there. Real person. And they need somebody that is informed and will engage at that point. And we have information, right? Product availability, specs, financing, right? Offers, so forth. But, this is a big but, they still want to have a relationship with somebody, right? The online sales process is different in many of the facets of it. But the one thing that's the same online or on the phone or via text or in the store, we have to create a relationship with these people. We have to get to know them one-on-one. We have to bring emotion into this thing. Because for a lot of us, what we sell is not a need. It's a want product. So we have to relationship and emotion to get there. If we can do that, right, that gets customers to start to have trust and confidence in who you are as an individual, who the dealership is, and your probability of getting that appointment set and kept goes up exponentially. So I think we just have to be aware, right? This is a matter of we have to meet the customer when and where they want to engage, and we need to do it right now, and we need to be very mindful of listening to how they want to engage with us. And we have to be present at all points along the way. So it's a hard game. It's a hard game, but I think the thinking, well, I'll get to it next because I know there's another question coming up for me later. So I'm going to hold back on that because I don't want to take all my thunder right now. So I'm going to leave it at that.
John, I love how you referenced the emotional journey. It's really important as digital sales leaders that we influence that emotional journey. We have to earn the right to ask for that appointment. And it starts by following up quickly. It starts by keeping a cadence, following up as whether it be for us was 26 touch points in a month, maybe for your team, it's 10 or 15, but it's really building that relationship and meeting them where they're at. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, John. And you know what, John, we need to make it a point that this team comes back together to talk about influencing the customer's emotional journey. Just with that first half, we could have a whole podcast or a whole series on that. So we'll be sure to do that. So I want to come to Travis for a minute. So Travis, we've seen a recent market shift. There isn't a buying frenzy or shortage of inventory any longer. We saw that for a pretty good period of time and really impacting our dealers. How can dealers today dial in their digital sales process to cultivate the leads and appointments necessary?
Yeah, great question, Taylor. I'm excited to answer it because, one of my favorite parts of my position here at Helm is I get to interact with dealers across the country, get a lot of different perspectives and different markets and so on. And having done that from 2020 to now, definitely the conversation has changed. I think it went from inventory. Now it went to maybe either some staffing or kind of getting harder than it used to be. But I think it's important to remember that, there's still buyers out there. And I think it's more important now than ever before that we're ready for them. Like John mentioned, having that website really dialed in, that digital showroom, set the right tone with that customer. So that way that first impression is strong. As for a shortage of inventory, maybe not as much as a whole, but definitely still shortage in certain models have been challenging for dealers. So maybe not every dealer has the right inventory right now. But in terms of getting more digital leads and dialing in that digital sales process, three things that are critical is person, process, and technology. Having a person that is trained to fulfill that function and conduct that job accordingly. Having the right process in place that's going to either hold that person accountable or really drive the behaviors that are going to drive the results that we'd like to see. And then also just technology, having the right tool. And that might be having the right website to set the right tone and that first impression, or it might be the right lead management tool to manage those leads once they come in. I think those three pieces are really, really, really critical for dealers to focus on right now. And, I think the reality of the market, whether it be economic or different factors going on, is we're just gonna have to work harder, to convert those digital leads. They have more options. Inventory is definitely not an issue like it was. So, we need to respond quickly, capture that customer. And, from a sales manager perspective, it's got to be important to you as a GM, an owner, a sales manager. Those digital leads need to be gold, and your team needs to know that you value them that way so that they will choose to also value them that way and really put emphasis on the digital leads. I think focusing on those things with your team daily and really, asking questions with your team of where are we at with this? How many leads did we get? Is just going to help them get in a better habit of keeping more of a consistent forefront of mind for those digital leads. And it's important as an owner, GM, sales manager to always inspect what you expect, right? There has to be accountability and things in place that are going to make sure that the work gets done. And the last thing I really want to say on this and very passionate about is, get a dedicated person to manage those digital leads and stop round robining them. I think a dedicated person in any position is a good thing, rather be a dedicated F&I manager or a dedicated sales manager. I think back, I would have sold a lot less bikes if I had to sell the parts and the motor clothes and the service too. So having people in specific functions that can drive a higher result and really fulfill that or provide that focus and that bandwidth, I think is super critical for dealers right now, especially with staffing being an issue out there.
Travis is dropping the mic right now. Those of you that are watching the videos, you're seeing Aaron, John, and my head just nodding. Our head's going to fall off with the amount of nodding that we're doing. And those of you that are tuning in, if only you could see this and all the nodding. And, Travis, thanks for, kind of lighting that fire. One thing that our dealers need to understand is with the amount of leads that you have right now, no additional marketing spend whatsoever, you have a major opportunity on the table. Major. We were doing a opportunity scorecard with a dealer not too long ago. High performing dealer. Their opportunity on their current lead volume was $1.6 million. $1.6 million. High performing dealer. We're seeing on average somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million for dealers with their current lead volume, no additional marketing spend. So here's what we're going to do. Inside the description below on this podcast, or those of you that are tuning in, take a look at the description below. We're going to go ahead and drop in our opportunity scorecard for free for you. Please download that. Go ahead and put in what is your sales target. Go ahead and put what your average GP is and look at that opportunity. I guarantee you're going to be surprised at what's available to you right now with no additional spend. So that's my little nugget for today. So let's go ahead and get back on track here. John, I'm going to call you up. Dealers should consider their individual digital evolution to keep up with the necessity of digital retailing. What changes do dealers need to make to ensure their digital presence does not become obsolete?
Okay. So before I go there, right, let's just clarify. Those big numbers Taylor was talking about, those aren't revenue numbers. Those are gross profit numbers.
Yes.
Right? So those opportunity numbers that we're talking about inside of leads that are already sitting in front of whoever looks at them or doesn't look at them in your dealership, there's that much opportunity. So just take that for what it's worth. Right? If there's that much money on the table, let's dig in and pay attention to that. So to the question. So the first thing I think, and this goes for all dealers or good business people anytime, we have to be very aware of the evolution of the customer, right? What's important to them, when and where. Okay, so we referenced that a minute ago. Digital space is more important to them right now. We said why and the evolution and how it got there and so forth. That's all fine. I think the biggest thing, right? I'm going to go with what Travis has with a dedicated person, but I think even maybe at the leadership level, you have to commit to a digital sales process. You have to understand it is a thing. It is a part of the business. It's a big part now. It's going to continue to be a big part. It may become even bigger in the future, but you have to understand it. You have to dig into it. Different steps to that sale. Okay, means we need a different traffic log. We have different KPIs in our digital space. We have to shift our head. Now we have two different sales processes. I have an in-store and I have a digital, and they're very different. And they do require different technology. They require different training. They require different staffing, and all those different pieces. So dedicated people, the right kind of tracking information there, right? How many leads do we get? Well, that's a function of how many people actually go to your website. Okay, what lead capture tools do you have on your site? Are they effective? I need to start paying attention to that stuff. Once I get those leads, what's my response time? How many times do I have to engage with a customer before I get them to respond again? What do I need to do? What language works? What text messaging works to get to where we earn this appointment after we've built the relationship? How do we build value in that appointment, value in the dealership, so that we get a shown appointment? And then again, we go into a different podcast, which is retail excellence, and how do we receive that appointment when they show up? And there's a whole way that we have to do that, because we have to take what we learned in the digital engagement with the customer, all the information and the trust we've built, and we have to move it now into the physical space. Okay? There's an art to that, but it comes with data and recording that information. So we need commit to the process, right? Commit to that. Once that's there, we have to be data driven dealers. Okay. If you work your traffic log the way that traffic logs are intended to be worked, which is the most important document that you have in the dealership, period. Okay. We make all kinds of decisions based on those, right? Advertising decisions, staffing decisions, coaching, training, all those things are derived. Those insights are derived from the analysis of the data. Same thing needs to be present in digital. Am I spending the right amount of money to drive traffic to the site? Maybe. Okay. Am I getting the right percentage of that traffic to become a lead? Okay. If not, you only have $1. Where am I going to spend it? The data will tell you where to spend it. We can't guess on this stuff, right? It's too valuable right now. The spend side of it, again, how many people do we need? Dealers, I won't say always, it's a bad thing. Most of the time, we find dealers underestimate the number of bodies or the amount of time it takes to successfully, properly handle inbound digital leads in a dealership, right? Because the assumption is, because like salespeople, if they follow up once or twice, they're doing a good job. But if they follow up once or twice and they don't get anything from the customer, they're done. So most dealers are like, okay, I can have somebody do this. They can have a whole bunch of leads. No. Right? Even when the lead comes in, we've got 8, 10, 12 outbounds before we even get the customer to respond again on average. And then when they respond, I got another 8, 10, 12 touch points with them before I get an appointment. You start to put those on top of each other and they compound every day. This is a dedicated person or two people, something like that. When we look at your gross profit numbers you talk about, Taylor, we can afford this. We can afford these people. The question is, you can't afford not to right now. There's too much at stake right here. So we need the people and we need to be data-led on this thing. Absolute accountability to every one of those metrics, right? We talk about how long it takes somebody to get.
John, emphasize just really quick. You can't afford not to, dealers, general managers, sales managers. You can't afford not to. Not in today's market.
No. No, you can, but that business is going somewhere, right? Because customers don't just put leads out to one store. They just don't, right? Whoever gets back first, whoever gets back best, and whoever stays with you the longest, that's who's going to earn the appointment, right? So if you think you're doing well and you got 2 follow-ups and the salespeople are doing it on the round robin approach, that business is going somewhere else. Sorry, they just are. And we can't do that right now. Right? We see the numbers. We see some of the headwinds, economic things that are happening, right? Cost of living, interest rates. People are back into their normal lives now. We used to have time and money during COVID. We couldn't do anything else. So everybody wanted to do recreate, right? Be in the power sports space. Well, that's all different, right? Kids are back to school. Now we go to dinner, we go to concerts, we go to movies, right? We have a lot more to do with our disposable income. So anyway, I get off track there a little bit. Embrace the process. Have a traffic log that matches the digital sales process. Record everything. Analyze the data. Do create a deal meetings with that data, just like your normal traffic log. Hold your people accountable to it. Train them on their weak areas, right? We'll see deficiencies in data on these things, right? Some people are great at, they get back quickly and they set a ton of appointments, but very few of those show up. They need a different kind of coaching than somebody that sets very few appointments and they all show up, right? Totally different inputs. We train the team, but we coach individuals. I can't coach an individual without the data. So have the data. The other little piece I think right now is, and I mentioned it, right? Travis did too a little bit. We've got some challenges inside of the power sports in a lot of the segments right now, right? Just because of what we said, just the way life is right now, people are more cautious with their spend. Okay, we have to do more to earn that business, and I think one of the things that we're seeing, and some of this came out from our webinar we did last week with Thomas Manning from Star Performance Marketing. We good dealer websites would generate about 2 to 3% of their unique website visitors would become leads. Okay, that was the number. That's what we would benchmark. What Thomas is seeing across automotive and marine and power sports is that number now is 1.2 to 1.5%. Okay, we're not seeing a decrease in web traffic. So the interest in the product is still there. But somehow between somebody coming to your website and being interested, they are disqualifying themselves at a greater rate than they did before because not half as many are raising their hand now. Okay, they don't think they can afford this product. So they're backing out before they even get in. Like, God, if I get engaged with somebody, what if I get all excited? Then I'm going to get emotional. I might buy the thing. So I'm not even going to start down that path. So the message that we need on the websites right now and the discussions with our digital customers and in the showroom, on the phone, anywhere, is attainability, right? You can afford this product. Okay, let's talk about it. We have availability. We have financing. We have different kinds of specials that go on. There's different things that we can do. And it's all, look, people live on payments. We are payment-driven people, monthly budget-driven people. We have to get the point across that we can fit this life-changing product into your monthly budget. And we got to get it on the website so we can get back up to, 2.5% of the people that are raising their hand right now. So again, that's part of just being tuned in and attentive to what's happening in the marketplace and what's on consumers' mind. Because most of the time in years past, price isn't the biggest issue. Price and payment weren't really the biggest issues, right? Convenience, reputation, availability, those things were higher than that. Today, it's more about price because that's the reality of people's lives right now. We have to make them understand it's attainable just to get into a conversation. So be mindful of what's important to them right now. Commit to the digital sales process, the traffic log, and the data. Data. Record it, make decisions with it, coach people, improve people, make their lives great, right? You give them the right tools and the right environment and you coach them on it, they'll stay with you forever, right? So now we got turnover that's coming down. Those are all huge things, right? And messaging right now for the website is attainability. We can help you. We're here and we can get you on this product if you really want to. So a lot happening right now. It's not easy. It's never been easy. But if you do it really well, it's really worth it.
John, you're preaching with passion today. I love it. This crew has brought it today. You can tell this is a hot topic, which we opened up noting that it would be. And I see Aaron getting antsy. He wants to dive in on every one of these.
Aaron's
so
ready.
Aaron,
Amen to what John just said. Amen to what you just said, John. I mean, you said there's so much that, we have these conversations all the time, but, being on here together and thinking through it, one thing, I just got to make this one comment, is that we all chose to be in this industry because of a passion in our heart. We love what we do. And, if you're still in this industry and the number one most important thing still isn't your passion, you might be in the wrong industry because the most important thing in this industry is about the customer experience. We get to offer a product. We get to offer a ride a journey for a customer that they get to go on that they've wanted their whole entire life. And, and you talked about the showroom and you talked about the website a lot, John, and a lot about opportunity and evolution and all those things. And, it's exciting to have this conversation because before we really had, the showroom and what we did to bring more people in our dealership so we could greet them and get to know them and, have fun and ring the bell, in many cases and celebrate their life, the life they want to have. We don't have to. We get to do that in another channel now in digital. The last comment I'll say till I'll bounce it over to you, but you talked about expectations of a customer, John, earlier in the podcast. I love what you said. You said the expectations of customers have increased. I think our customers' expectations have always been high, but they are higher. I agree with you. They're higher than they were. And I just had to write it down because I was like, well, what are the risks if we do not reach their new expectation? But a better question is, what the hell happens if we actually still exceed it? What happens even in a tough market if we can still exceed and now increase customer experience? Else the sky's the limit. So sorry, you get me excited, John. Listen to what you're saying.
That's all right. Well, not to go, but that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'll say this one thing, because what you're talking about in the product that we have been involved with for our careers, and our listeners today, right? These aren't necessities for the most part. These are want-to-haves, but they profoundly can change somebody's life, right? They just have a new activity, they have new friends, they have just different things, right? There's all these physiological studies. You get out a motorcycle and all of a sudden you're done with a ride, right? Your heart rate's down, your blood pressure's down, your stress level's down, all the good that comes with that. It fundamentally can do that. But there's a guy, Kevin Kelly, who's an architect, one of the principals at Shook Kelly, which is a company that we've done some design work with in the past. But Kevin said, look, you guys don't work in the recreational product industry. You work in recreation. He's like, it's the same word, right? But the product you sell, if we do it right and we deliver the experience that you're talking about, Aaron, right there, and we put somebody on this and then we give them reasons to ride it, right? Reasons to go to the lake and groups to go out with, and they actually involve themselves in that lifestyle and that culture, their life's different, right? It's been recreated. So we're like, oh, it's recreational product. Like, no, it's recreation of somebody's life. And we can't, it's okay. It's okay to be that serious about it and realize that you can have that impact every single day in these dealerships. You should have that. Yeah. Anyway, we could go on for days about the cultural side and the emotional side of the business. But Taylor, back to you. Get us back on track here. We'll be here all day.
I love it. And great perspective, John. Thanks for sharing that. And you know what we'll do, guys, is let's make sure that we create a podcast solely on influencing the journey, really talking about, the recreation of the recreation industry. So Aaron, I want to close out with you today. Tell me, how do you see the digital first market continuing to advance over the next 5 years?
Well, I think there's no doubt that, the digital first, the way we market, the way we handle digital leads, it's just going to continue to grow at a very fast pace over these next 5 years and beyond. And it's going to continue to innovate itself. And we as individuals in the industry will continue to innovate it very quickly. It's going to continue. I think we'll see a larger drive from technological advancements, and what's available. We hear of new things in our world like, chat GPT and different things. And, there's just a lot there, but the human system side and how we interact with the technology and how we influence the customer journey, all those things we talked about today. I think we'll continue to need to monitor the way that we continue to see changes in the way consumer preferences are. Some of those are the way they want to be communicated with, the way that they want to engage with us. So I think that'll continue to evolve. look, like we started at the beginning of the podcast, the lessons that we learned in the, you know, really the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, those lessons will continue to go with us. You know, they'll continue to move on with us, and dealerships of all brands that embrace those, and you know, those advancements that continue to offer a seamless, you know, I like to say like a customer first, customer centric experience. I think those are the dealerships that are going to thrive the best as we, you know, as we evolve, you know, the landscape evolves. Ones that do not, John alluded to this, I think will really suffer as digital continues to advance, and that's reality. But there was a lot that was talked about today. I heard challenge and opportunity a lot. I'm celebrating 20 years in this industry this year. If I look back at there's been good times, right, John? There's been good times and there's been tough times. It's the toughest times that really make us, that define us, and that make us the best that we can be. If everything was great all the time, how would we grow? So I'll end with a quote that I really love to share, and I share it with our team. I share it when I get to talk to my dealer friends, is if you do not change the way that you do business, your customers will change who they do business with. And I think that's something that stays true to my heart, and the way I like to, you know, continue to be engaged in the industry. And I think dealerships should take that seriously. So look forward to strap in. You know, hopefully, if you're listening, you're doing a lot of these things, but strap in, because I think we're going to continue to, as the years go on, we're going to continue to see things happen very quickly.
Yeah. Great, Aaron. Thank you. And those of you that are tuning in and listening, remember, there is this digital evolution, this technological evolution. Find a company to serve you. Can certainly consider Lead Helm. We are a platform that was built for dealers by dealers. We'd love to talk to you about the platform, how we can help you increase your appointments and increase your sales and help you achieve that potential. But if we're not the right fit for you, not a problem. Find somebody that is, because we genuinely love this industry and we want to see you excel. So let me step off my soapbox for just a minute and let's wrap us up. Aaron, John, and Travis, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. This was a big topic. Just like we noted earlier, we brought the passion. Travis dropped the mic. We're going to have to continue to build off of this conversation. To learn more about Lead Helm and how we can help your dealership achieve the goals that we just mentioned and ensure that your digital does not become obsolete, go ahead and visit leadhelm.com or click the link below, and we're happy to help walk you through. Be sure to subscribe to our monthly podcast and tune into all of our conversations with industry leaders, friends, and dealers, and be sure to share this with a friend in the industry. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us your biggest takeaway or drop your questions below. We'll see you next time.